What's up, everyone? Welcome to another devlog for Klinga, the personal finance web app I'm building to replace Mint. It's Wednesday night here, and I'm ready to dive into some dev work. I'm picking up the Budgets Firestore integration task this week, so I thought I'd give a brief introduction into what that is exactly. A few weeks ago, I developed the Budgets view template using dummy static data so that I could easily visualize the layout. Now it's time to update it to read real data from Firestore for the logged in user. I'll follow pretty much the same path I did for the goals integration task. Create a new collection for budgets in Firestore, generate a new budget service in the web app, and then make the updates to the budgets template. I'll also take some lessons learned from the goals integration task and build the dialog to be multifunctional from the start so that the same dialog can be used for adding and editing budgets. In order to close out this task, I'll need to have the functionality to read and display the current user's budgets, create new budgets, and edit and delete existing budgets. The data for the progress bar will not be part of this task because it will require the transactions integration. The month selector at the top is also out of scope for this task for the same reason. I'll be circling back with tonight's progress when I'm ready to finish up for tonight. All right, guys, I've made some really good progress tonight. I created the new budgets collection in Firestore to hold the user's budgets. Here's a quick look at the preliminary structure that I'm using, but I expect I'll need to add to it in the future. Also, you can see that I created a few new documents in the collection to use for testing. Next, I started to make some of the changes needed in the web app. I added the new budgets service and created a function for fetching the user's budgets. This function is actually really cool in how it works. The query on the budgets collection is used to listen to changes to documents that meet the query criteria. In our case, all documents that the current user's ID is set to the UID. The collection data function is used to return an observable that gets triggered when any changes do occur. After that, I injected the new service into the budgets component and used the load budgets function to create an observable called budgets. I use this observable combined with the async pipe and the template to define how the data should be displayed. I'm using a for loop in the template to create one of these app progress components for each budget, and just simply filtering by the income boolean in the document to split the budgets into two sections. It's getting pretty late here, but I think this is a really good start to the dev work for this week. I'll need to make a few more updates to the template to ensure all of the view is loaded from the budgets observable before I move on to creating a dialog for adding and editing budgets. And that is where I will plan to pick up next. Hey guys, it's Friday afternoon here. I had a little bit of spare time during lunch today, so I actually went ahead and finished updating the budget component template. Now all of the values are being populated from the data received from Firestore. I plan to take the night off and relax, but I do hope to spend one more night this weekend working on writing budgets data to Firestore. That being said, I do have a few other commitments to work around, so we'll see. What's up, guys? It's Monday night here, and I'm just getting back around to doing some dev work. I intended on getting one night of work over the weekend and compiling everything into a video to release tonight, but I got caught up with some travel and outdoor projects. I think now my plan will be to hopefully complete the budgets Firestore integration this week and get the video together at the end of the week as I usually do. I'm going to keep this short so I can jump right into it. I'll check back in a bit with some updates. All right, I'm back with some updates from tonight's dev work. Most of the work focused on getting the new dialog created and opening it with the click of the add button. In the dialog, I added the dynamic title that I can set depending on if the add or edit button triggers the dialog. I also added a couple of form fields to the dialog for entering the budget information. I used an input field for both the category and budgeted amount fields. However, after some thought, I think I should update the budget category field to be a select field. The dropdown would have different sections which would represent categories, and each value would be a subcategory. I think this would make a really simple interface, so I will plan to update the dialog tomorrow. I did already add validators for the fields. Both have the required validator, and the budgeted amount field additionally has the number validator and minimum value of one validator. In addition, I also added the error messages to display below the form fields if they are invalid. I'll have to make the updates to the category form field to start tomorrow, but after that, I should be able to move right into adding the budget service functions for writing to Firestore. Right now, I'm pretty comfortable that I will be able to complete the integration this week. So for now, I'm going to call it a night. Hey everyone, it's Tuesday night here, and I'm ready to keep the momentum going tonight with integrating budgets with Firestore. As I mentioned last night, I will be updating the category input field to a select field, and I'll create a list of all the categories at a later point in time. Initially, I think I will create a list in the constants TypeScript file with all of the available categories, but I may move it to be stored in a collection in Firestore at some point. The latter approach would provide the functionality of user-created categories, which I think would be a desired feature, but I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comments. All that being said, I'm going to jump right into it now, and I'll hopefully be back with a completed integration task here in a little bit. Checking back in with some great news before I shut it down for tonight. I was able to complete all of the budget's integration work, which means I'll be able to move forward to transactions next week. Something I am really excited about because it will start to tie everything together. Tonight, I actually started with building out the functions for the budget service for adding a new budget and editing and deleting an existing budget. My thought process here was that it would be pretty easy to test out these functions with the input fields in the dialog, and then I could make the update to change the category input to the select field. I really leaned on my approach to the goals service to develop these functions because the features are very much the same, except for the data fields being different. This sped things up quite a bit. Once I completed the budget service functions, I added a function for opening the dialog in edit mode and connected it to the click trigger for the edit buttons. I also made sure to inject the data to be displayed in the fields and set the show delete button input to true. I then tested out all three of the functions in the budget service to make sure everything was working correctly. One thing I did initially forget to add in the triggering edit function was the ID for the existing document, but I quickly realized the omission after seeing that it was not working correctly and reviewing the error message in the console. After verifying the budget service integration was working correctly, I tackled the category form field update. My first approach to structuring the data was to create these category groups where the category was the group name and each group had a list of subcategories. It was pretty easy to traverse to display as options in the select input, but it turned out to be pretty difficult to set the current data in the edit dialog. My second approach was to create a list of categories which contain a name field and a subcategory field. where the subcategory field would be blank for the category group name. This was even easier to traverse for displaying in the dialog and made it pretty easy to set in the edit dialog. I just check if there is a subcategory provided. If there isn't, then the value should be set to the category name. The last step was to set all the fields when a selection was made. I leveraged the selection change trigger to call a function that simply searches for the selected value in my list, finding the first match of category or subcategory. And then I use the entry to populate the data. After doing some rigorous testing, it appears to be working quite well. This is really awesome progress for this week. I plan to spend a good bit of time the rest of the week downloading a bunch of transaction CSVs from my various accounts to use for developing the transactions features. I plan to build out the functionality for manually adding single transactions and uploading CSVs of transactions to start with. These will of course be stored in a new transactions collection in Firestore. I'll then work on the editing and splitting transactions functionalities, including tagging transactions with goals and spending categories. I have a lot of interesting tasks coming in the next couple of weeks that I'm really excited to share with you guys. If you have any feature requests or questions, I'd love to hear them in the comments below. I'll see you next time.